ahead and get started, and then I will check and see if it is
It's
actually,
feeding.
yeah, if it is actually streaming to Facebook, because I haven't done Zoom on Facebook in a while, so not sure.
Is
Let's
it going to
see.
go live on YouTube or?
No,
Oh, no.
no, Zoom only goes live
Oh, no.
to, it can go to Facebook or to it can go live to Facebook or um YouTube, but it can't do both,
Yeah.
right? Whereas the Be Live can do both at the same time. So that's why I prefer to use that one.
Well, shoot, man. I'm sorry.
You
Did you want to
see?
go? I can go back to the other computer that's less stylish if you'd like, and use the
Yeah,
other link if you prefer.
but I couldn't see or hear you on that one. That's the problem,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So let me just okay. All right. We can go live here.
All right. My apologies for
Yeah.
making it difficult.
Man, compared to the problems that people are having in the world right now, this is a piece of cake,
Right.
right? You know, um, I'm watching a Zoom conversation between people who don't even live here in the States, but are up in arms at each other
Really.
over, yeah, are up in arms at each other over our elections. So, a few technical difficulties here on Facebook on a Friday evening is that's the least of my worries.
Right.
Right.
Very
So,
true.
okay. So I think we're live on Facebook. So the only thing is I'll have to keep an eye on it. See, so let me tell, because you don't know, I think you don't know about Be Live, right?
No, I don't. Go ahead and educate
Okay.
me.
So here's the thing, right? So like I told you before, it allows you to stream to both Facebook and actually Facebook, YouTube. I don't have the account, but I think it can go to LinkedIn and Instagram and go
Hmm.
live on all four at the same time. Then
Yeah,
the other
makes
thing that
sense.
the other thing that it has is that you can see the comments right next door. As far as I know, Zoom doesn't do that, right? Even if you're live
I don't
streaming.
believe so. I don't
Yeah.
believe so.
See, yeah. So Zoom is somewhat a little bit behind the scenes when it comes to that type of thing. Anyhow, let me go ahead and officially welcome you, Mr. Fury, to the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues episode number 317. Right. So for those
Wow.
of you, yeah, 317, my friend. So for those of you who are wondering, um, Derrick and I met a few weeks ago when he reached out to me to come on to his excellent podcast called FuryCast, which you can find over on the YouTube. And so we're talking, and I didn't know this, and then we're talking, and he goes, "Well, yeah, I'm a JKD instructor in the Vunak lineage." And I'm like, "What?" Right. So right there, I didn't tell you, but right there, I made the plan, right? To return right there, I made the plan to return the favor, because it happened when I put up the postcard for our talk today, because it says Axiom Jiu Jitsu and mixed martial arts. The
I
guy
read the comment.
says, "Did you see it?" Right?
Yeah.
The
I
guy
want to talk to
says,
my wife about it. Is that a
I
friend
mean,
of yours? Because I wanted to bring it up, but I didn't, I don't want to be rude to anybody. And people are coming from different perspectives. But
yeah.
is that a friend of yours?
Yeah, well, okay, so that's actually Paul Johnson, who's been on the show,
Okay.
right? You know, it's just that some people just have these ready-made ideas about Jeet Kune Do. And if you do something that doesn't fit into their ready-made idea. So if I put up a thing that says, I'm going to be talking to Derrick Fury, and the name of his school is Axiom Jiu Jitsu and Mixed Martial Arts. Well, he can't be Jeet Kune Do. It doesn't say Jeet Kune Do in the name of his school. Right?
And
You
Jeet Kune
know,
Do.
exactly. That's so you got to go change your sign. You got to go change your all your online stuff. If you have business cards, you got to go change your business cards, Derrick. It must say Axiom Jiu Jitsu, MMA, and Jeet Kune Do. Otherwise, you're not legitimate.
Well, I guess my perspective was, the comment, isn't that really outside of the philosophy of Jeet Kune Do, though? The fact that, hey,
listen,
Jiu-Jitsu
man.
isn't Jeet Kune, like what is, how
Hey,
can you clearly define Jeet Kune Do?
Over on another Facebook page, right? Not my page, but over on another page, there's a guy who's carrying on about our mutual good friend and your teacher, Eric Paulson. How Paulson is not Jeet Kune Do because when he fights, you don't see Jeet Kune Do. And I'm like,
were they looking for oblique kicks, check kicks, or what are they looking for? And a lot of the stuff you say doesn't look like Jeet Kune Do. You're saying it doesn't look like Filipino martial arts, mate. Like what exactly? How would you define what Jeet Kune Do looks like? Because I'll say this one thing I really love about Jeet Kune Do is the fact that on my certificate, and me and my wife went through Hurricane Harvey. So, and of course, I had it on the floor in a frame on the floor in the closet. And it got flooded out, so I don't even have my instructor certificate anymore. But it said on the certificate, yours probably says the same thing. If you want to change anything, if you find anything useful or you want to change, you have the right to change this. On the certificate.
Yes. Well,
my instructor. So
unfortunately,
what does Jeet Kune Do look like?
This is the thing. People who carry on about, well, I don't see the Jeet Kune Do. When you ask them, and that's what I did. So in this discussion that I'm having with this guy, and nobody knows who the guy is, he has no information on his profile, and he's got a picture of Bruce Lee as his profile.
The guy talking
picture.
about Paulson. You're talking about the guy talking about Paulson.
Yeah, right. So I'm saying, well, I'm asking him, well, what's Jeet Kune Do supposed to look like? He says, well, why don't you send me a video? I go, a video of what? He goes, well, I'm serious. Listen to this. He says, well, do one of Poteet, one of Ted Wong, and one of Inosano. And I go, no. Wait, let me try to get it right. He says, do a Poteet version, a Ted Wong version, and an Inosano version. And I go, a version of what? Right? Because I'm like,
why don't I do my version? Because it's my expression.
But this is the thing.
Isn't that the point?
Right.
I'm trying to find the source of my own ignorance.
Well,
right?
Amen. But like I tell people all the time, one reason why I indulge in these online conversations with people like that is because it helps me to solidify my points. Right? It helps me to construct in my mind what for lack of a different expression, what my talking points would be when you get into the Jeet Kune Do conversation. But you quickly realize, Derrick, that people don't know what the heck they're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's one of the problems with giving them too much gas on the internet. Well, anyhow, we're not supposed to be talking about my adventures on Facebook. We're supposed to be talking about you, Derrick Fury.
Yes.
And I have a question for you, right? Because this is what I was thinking about. So for those of you who don't know, you got to go to IMDb and look up Derrick Fury, and you'll see that he's a filmmaker. But this was I thought of this. You know how sometimes when people start their first martial arts school, sometimes it's financed by friends and savings and family members and what have you. Is that similar to how you might make your first film?
Yeah, that's exactly how one would make their first film. Yes, that's pretty much the business model. The what do you call it? Bootstrapping. If you're trying to
Right.
start a school, I'm going to bootstrap it here. Get a little funds here, get a little funds there, save up a little money. With making a film, I mean, financing a film, getting a film off the ground. I mean, you could do a whole podcast episode just on that. But
Right.
for my experience for the film Lion Killer, posters right behind me, available on Amazon Prime, Tubi, Freevee. There's a full Spanish dub. Anybody out there, if you're into martial arts, you just like a good movie with true and real characters trying to overcome challenges set in the world of jiu-jitsu, please watch Lion Killer. But the way we financed it, I say we, my wife was my co-producer, we crowdfunded.
Okay.
So that's kind of the modern version of bootstrapping.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it was a micro budget film. So when you hear people say it's a low budget film, that could mean $10,000 or $1 million. Some people tell you their $1 million movie is an indie, and some of those $3, $4, $5 million movies will go to Sundance and they have an A-list star in them. But it's a low budget. This is a low budget film just starring J-Lo and Brad Pitt. But this is completely different.
Yeah.
This is really a community effort. So much so the jiu-jitsu community in Houston came out. If you watch the movie, there's a credit scene, the introduction credit scene, where he's in his jiu-jitsu school. People are rolling, kind of going through a class the way a jiu-jitsu class would go. I just put the call out, and I was 35 people from all over the city of Houston who did jiu-jitsu came out and supported. And that's how you put it together. You put it together with, I tell people, if you want to make a movie, especially like a micro budget movie, under $50,000, under 20 hours was under $25,000. But if you want to make a micro budget movie, if you're into knitting, make a movie about knitting, because you've got a community of people that'll support you.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to make a JKD, you want to make a movie, make a JKD movie. Because a lot of people that would come out and support. You could probably get Anasano in there. But,
yeah,
but you really have to do it. Yeah.
That reminds me, remember when I told you a story about Only the Strong? When they filmed that in Miami, they went to the Yellow Pages and called every martial arts school in town.
Yeah.
And that's how they got their gang members and bad guys.
Yeah. Except so they were paying y'all. For this kind of movie, it's like, hey, we got pizza, and you want to be in a movie. And people came out and supported. Even the gis in the movie people were donated. I have a friend here in the suburbs in Katy who has a gi company called Club Boost, and he donated a bunch of gis. So you'll see a bunch of gis with the logo Club Boost on there, and he donated gis for the movie. Well, yeah. So it really is a hustle, in the truest sense, to make a movie on any budget, much less the budget we had.
Right. So I was going to wait until a little bit later to ask you to tell us about Lion Killer, but on your IMDb it says that you write, produce, shoot, direct, and edit. Right. So
yeah, I do. I didn't shoot this film. I did everything you just mentioned, but I actually had a talented cinematographer for this one. But yeah.
All right. Okay, but no, give us the outline, the story outline of Lion Killer. And then I'll tell people, I'll remind people where to go watch it.
Yeah, please do. I can take all the help I can get. But Lion Killer is the story of a struggling Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor who's trying to get over the death of his instructor, his mentor. He meets a beautiful young lady and starts a romance. She's struggling with her own issues, particularly she comes from a history of abuse and domestic violence. And ultimately, it's about two hurting people trying to get over and conquer their own personal issues so they can fall in love and lead a happy life. So it's about the struggle to get over oneself rather than the struggle to defeat a outside foe. Although there is a bad guy in there, and I got to give a shout out to CJ Hancock, who plays the bad guy in the movie, did a wonderful job. He's a Gracie Baja black belt, and he was very menacing. So he gave a lot of gravitas as the baddie in the movie.
Now okay, so I listened to you giving that description, and it reminds me of something else that I found out about you. So now you got to tell me about this conscious hip hop, because that's a conscious BJJ movie you just described, right?
Yeah.
So now tell me about conscious hip hop.
I actually think it's a term now, but I coined that term 1996, 1997.
Oh, they stole it from you.
You know, it's kind of funny. Me and my wife were watching a movie with Alec Baldwin, and it was actually like an MMA themed movie. I think it's called like Girl Fight or Chick Fight, and he's the coach. And you know, I kind of played the kind of Obi-Wan character in Lion Killer, and I swear he gives a speech, and then there's a punchline in the speech. It's exactly the way we did it in Lion Killer. Their movie came out like 2 years later. So sometimes maybe it's theft. I don't think it's theft. I think people kind of land on the same ideas.
Right.
And it's all about who gets it out there first. But yeah, conscious hip hop. So yeah, I did Christian hip hop for years as a young man in my 20s, and then kind of relabeled it as conscious hip hop because I was playing clubs, bars, anybody that would listen to a message about overcoming and conquering oneself. And not only that, but just stories about your life and what you've been through. Yeah. Where the radio is populated with, man, have you listened to the radio lately? It's just sex. Every song is just, that's all it is.
No, I was thinking about that in the elevator today. I think I stopped listening to new music in about 2000 or so.
Yeah, that's probably about the right time to get out.
Yeah, I think, yeah, because so the other day, because my friends still make fun of me because I have zero music on this thing. Okay, my music that I am constantly with is on an MP3 player.
Okay.
Right. I do not have a Spotify account. Well, actually, I do, because I got it when Joe Rogan moved to Spotify. I got a Spotify account, right? But I to be honest, I stopped using it because I didn't like its interface, so I never used it. And I stopped listening to Joe Rogan. I do not have a Pandora account. I do not have an Apple Music account. All my music is MP3s on my player, and I keep it set to shuffle. So the variety of music in which I am interested, that's what I play. And I have no interest in loading stuff up onto my phone and being tied to my phone as much as I am already. So I stopped this. But so the other day, I did a search for the top funk songs of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, just to make sure I wasn't missing anything. I have them all on my MP3. Everything that was considered a top hit. So then the next day, I went for soul
Uptown
and
Funk
R&B.
Is pretty recent.
Huh?
Uptown Funk is what pretty recent, last 5 years though.
Yeah, and I don't. Do I have
That's
that?
not for you.
I might have that. And the only reason, right? The only reason that something like that would attract me is because it's a modern day version of an old school approach.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? I mean,
their delivery, everything, the way they dress, perform, everything.
Yeah, that Bruno Mars is seriously channeling James Brown and what have you,
Mm-hmm.
So so something like that, if it's catchy, if it's got a good beat and what have you, I'll pick up on it. But That's the only Bruno Mars song I have. I'm not interested in anything else. You know what I mean? So I was really intrigued when it talked about your conscious hip hop. And now it says that you toured playing hip hop music throughout Europe and
Yeah.
Europe and the US
Yeah. Mostly the US. I
and
was a one-off
Asia.
in
Okay.
overseas. Well, I never got to go to Asia, but I was released. Some of my songs were released in Japan, and if you would ask me 5 years ago, there's a few other countries. I there was a small label in Japan that put out some of my music, and there was another producer I worked with, I believe in
Okay.
Holland or the Netherlands. Really talented guy. We put out some music out there, and then going overseas was like a one-off, but mostly, but for about a good 10 years, you
Right.
know. I played music, got paid for playing music, not much, but enough to get to the next gig and sleep on the floor,
Yep.
But
Yep.
did that for quite a while. If I had my way, I'd probably still be doing that. But you get older, it's a little harder to sleep on the floor.
Yeah.
But and music just changed so much. So the last project I put out, I was really proud of. But the good thing about that, kind of like going back to Lion Killer, all the music in that movie is original. The score is original. There's 5 or 6 original songs from my good friend Vince Lichlighter, who he co-produced my last project, and he's the guy that I met on tour. We played like this show in Oklahoma, probably 95 or 96, and you just meet some people and you just connect.
Yeah.
Always stayed in contact, always visited each other,
Right.
and going back to how do you make a movie or how do you finance a movie, all the songs, all the original score, all the songs, he donated all those, and they're all original, really good songs. I would say check out those songs. I believe I uploaded it to Spotify or something a long time ago. I'll send you a link. But
Okay.
yeah,
So
so
now, for anybody who is after hearing this conversation, you're gonna go catch Lion Killer. It's on Amazon Prime. It's on Apple TV. It's on Tubi. It's on is it Freeze or Freevee? I think it's Freevee,
Freevee.
right?
That used to be the IMDb TV, and
Right.
they rebranded it to Freevee.
Okay. So it's on
Yeah.
Amazon Prime. It's on Apple TV. It's on Tubi. It's on Freevee, and then it's a Spanish dub on Canela TV, right?
Yes.
Did I get that right?
Super interesting. Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
cool.
you got it right. And it's super interesting to watch the Spanish dub. I don't speak Spanish. I sat and watched it just to see whose voice they used for me.
Uh-huh.
They
Yeah.
used the deepest voice. I was happy. Very good.
Okay. All right. So I gotta do some chronological stuff with you. Um,
Mhm,
I am assuming that the black belt in Taekwondo came
mhm.
first as a kid,
Yes.
right?
No. But I do
No.
tell my kids, in jiu-jitsu. So this is the deal with me. Dude, we were too poor to do martial arts. All right. I grew up in the projects. I tell people I grew up under the projects. And when I say projects with an S, plural, like from one project to the next,
Yeah.
we were in Louisiana in the projects, we were in Texas in the project, we were in the projects,
Yeah.
you know. So, but I always had a passion for martial arts, but could really never put it together more than, a couple weeks here and there and, free class here and there.
Mhm.
But I was that kid that always read Black Belt Magazine, Inside Kung Fu, Taekwondo Times. I was that kid that was super into it. So roundabout, and I actually just ran into my old Taekwondo teacher about 3 weeks ago at a restaurant. Just walk in and there they are, him and his wife just sitting there, right? So it's
Wow.
funny how God kind of will bring people
Yeah.
into your life. Because I run
Yeah.
into him about every 10 years. We run into each other. We live in Houston. There's like 4 million people here. So to run into anybody twice is kind of a interesting thing. But I was probably 21, 22, and I went to work for United Taekwondo, which probably at that time probably had about 6, 7, maybe 8 schools in the Houston area,
Mhm.
which was probably one of the biggest Taekwondo associations in Texas at that time.
Right.
But I went to work for them, and so because I worked there, I got free classes, and that's part of the reason I took the job. So I got free Taekwondo. With the money I made from working there, I then went and did judo. Went and paid, I think it was $50 at Daryl Craig's Houston Budokan. And for those that may not have heard of Sensei Craig, it's so funny, youth, you don't realize who's around you and how important these people are. But Sensei Craig, or they call him Craig Sensei, a very important figure in martial arts and traditional Japanese martial arts, especially in the Texas, Houston area. Mm-hmm. But he had a Houston Budokan for years and years, and I went and trained judo over there. Actually started in his jiu-jitsu class because I was actually looking for Brazilian jiu-jitsu and couldn't find any. And so they had like Japanese jiu-jitsu. Hey, what's the difference? Yeah. Of course, it's very different.
Right.
But the good thing about that is he had, there was like 3 or 4 Iranian expats there who were like Olympic level jiu-jitsu, judo. Mm-hmm. And because I was a big guy, they would just walk over on the mats and just, no, you're over here right now. Because they just needed a big guy to throw around, you know. And I, you know, and the Japanese style of jiu-jitsu was all stand up. They grab your wrist, you do this.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, this is cool. They're like, no. Next thing you know, I'm getting thrown head over, you know, head over heels. And the workout was just grueling. I mean, just really grueling, but really great. A bunch of really great guys that I'm still in contact through Facebook with that judo instructor. Mm-hmm. So I was doing Taekwondo and judo at the same time. But this was what I say 93, 94-ish. And UFC had just been out maybe a year, and there was still that air of like, oh, those guys, if I mention a martial art or mention the UFC to my Taekwondo instructors, they just don't know good Taekwondo. They just, a good Taekwondo guy will go over there, he'll just take care of them. They've never seen it. Those guys aren't that good. You don't understand. The Gracies, they've never seen a good Taekwondo, you know, that kind of conversation. Mm-hmm. And then if I went over to Daryl Craig's and mentioned, what do you think of Taekwondo? Kind of the same thing. And I think a lot of people were having that experience at the time. We wanted to cross train, but it was very taboo in the 90s. So I was doing it on the down low. So I just kept doing it both at the same time. I didn't tell anybody. I ended up leaving that job, so I didn't finish my Taekwondo black belt. And I tell my kids, at that time I didn't finish it, but I tell my kids, you know, my martial arts kids, that, you know, so that was early 20s. I get to my late 20s and I kind of do inventory of my life, and I don't like the fact that there's things that were started and not completed. Mm-hmm. So I went back and completed. It was really the same place. Funny thing is, now the instructor that was there at that time, he had moved on, started another school, and a buddy of mine who had started right about the same time with me kind of married into the family. Now he was the black belt instructor of the school. So I ended up getting my black belt in Taekwondo from a friend that I started with. And hold up real quick. Something's going on with, I lost the camera. Can you still see me?
Yeah, I still see it.
Let me see here. There you go. So ended up going back, completing that, did some tournaments, got some trophies, did that whole Taekwondo thing, but really wanted to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because that was my original idea. You know, hey, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I watched UFC 1, 2, and 3. I know what's up, you know. You know, and there was really only a couple places in Houston that had Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And one was within walking distance of my house, just by my apartment at that time. You know, once again, this is Houston, Texas, really big city.
Isn't Carlos Machado there? Isn't he in Houston?
No, I believe he's in Dallas. I believe it's Carlos is in Dallas. Okay. There's a bunch of Henzo schools out here, Dracolino's down here. But Austin has probably really become the premier place with like a lot of big names. But I will say this, there's probably more jiu-jitsu schools per capita here than anywhere else. I'm trying to do a jiu-jitsu and MMA school, and I'm literally they're opening, it's like everywhere around me. So there's probably 10 within 15 minutes drive of me on all sides. But yeah.
Are they all thriving? Is it that popular?
It seems
that,
like it's that popular. You know, I have a small school. We've been open for about 2 years, and my same thing with the movie. It's you know, I bootstrapped it.
Mhm.
So I would ask you this because you know a lot of successful martial artists. I'll pick your brain. What do you think about the bootstrapping model? It seems to me like back in the day, that's how you started an academy. But it seems like now people are investing big money. They're starting big, staying big, and only growing.
Well,
So in other words, they take a bunch of money, they open
yeah,
up with 80 students, 2 years times, they got 300 students.
yeah. And but now here's the thing. What are they teaching?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
See, that's
I
the
mean,
thing, right?
some are legit, but yeah, the
Yeah.
majority, I
But
know
no,
what you
no,
mean.
no, no. What I'm saying is that you probably could not, to be honest, right? You could not. There are people who do it, but they started doing it 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Today, I don't think the term Jeet Kune Do is well known enough that people will be attracted to it.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody knows Muay Thai. Everybody knows Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Everybody knows MMA. And
Mhm.
so if you want to break into the market, okay, I dare say you might even be luckier or more successful uh, advertising Filipino martial arts,
You think so?
more so than JKD.
More so than JK.
But definitely Muay Thai, definitely uh, BJJ for sure. So if somebody wanted to open up a school but you know what, I think would still also last is Taekwondo.
Yeah, there's
I
a lot of
think
technical schools
I
out
think
here.
yeah, I think the demand and the interest level of Taekwondo has never died down in spite of BJJ and what have you, because
Yeah.
I think that to a certain degree they cornered the market
They have a
for
business model that works
yes,
for young
yes,
children.
yes,
Yeah.
right. So I dare say, and I've been out of it for 10 years now, but I dare say that if you opened up a martial art school today and it's not the micro dojo model, if you want to
The
open
Mac
up like,
Dojo.
no,
Yeah.
micro dojo.
Micro. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I
The
know what you're
micro
saying. Like
dojo.
the kind of like the JKD gym model.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. If it's not that model, you want to have a school with 300 people, you better have Muay Thai in there. And again, it depends on if you want more adults than kids, right? If you want more adults than kids, then you better have BJJ and Muay Thai in there. I hate to say it,
Yeah.
but I think
Yeah.
that would have to be right.
Yeah. Well, that's our
I
two main. That's our two main. We do jujitsu and
yeah,
STX kickboxing, which is Eric Paulson's
right.
STX kickboxing.
Yeah, and you know, and that's where the criticism will come, right? Because they'll be like, oh, well, then you're not really Jeet Kune Do. And this is something that people don't understand. You know, it's kind of like people out there are talking about you know who politically they hate, right? And then other people will say, well, okay, I understand that you might hate this person, but have you taken a look at the results of this person's policies? You
Mm-hmm.
know, so somebody will say, well, you are running a martial arts school and you're a Jeet Kune Do instructor, but you're not pushing Jeet Kune Do as much as you're pushing jujitsu or Muay Thai
Yeah.
or MMA. Well, yeah, that's because you're criticizing me about that because you're not the one running the damn school.
You're not paying these bills.
You see?
Come pay these bills.
Exactly, right? So you can get on your high horse and go, oh, well, you're not pushing it. And they don't understand. Here's what you do. This is my simple solution. I never had to do it. But if I did set up that way today, my simple solution would be this. Give enough people what it is that they want with integrity, right? So that would fund your little inner circle, what some people would call black belt club. that will fund your little inner circle black belt club where you teach the Jeet Kune Do that you really want to teach.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
That's what I would do. Right.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that I would water down the other stuff. It just means that I would definitely cater the other stuff to what the market is interested, because you can have all your high-minded ideals, but if you go into business, you better go into business prepared to give the market because the market dictates, not your high-minded ideals, right? So in 1992, when I went commercial, which means we moved out of a warehouse to a storefront, that was 1992. Jeet Kune Do sold itself.
Yeah.
You know, it had a stellar reputation, I would say, from the pages, you will remember this, from the pages of Inside Kung Fu magazine. Inside Kung Fu made its bones, man, off of Jeet Kune Do and Filipino martial arts.
Yeah.
As far as I'm
also
concerned.
the only if you're really interested in cross training and this thing called NHB, no holds barred, before the term MMA came around,
right?
You know, if you were really interested in any kind of cross training, that was really the thing to do. I remember, I don't know if you're familiar with Tim Mosel. He's yeah, you should, yeah, he's an Minnesota guy.
Yeah,
but
I know Tim.
I had him on FuryCast, and I told him, I remember when he came to town, and like we were whispering his name in hushed tones like this.
Yeah,
this guy's got Anasano certifications, and his name's Tim Mosel. You know, it was like he was the only guy in Houston, fourth largest city in America, that had any kind of JKD certification, and that was a big deal.
Yeah. Hey man, you know how long I know Tim Mosel? I know Tim Mosel when he was from, is it Wisconsin he was from?
Yeah, he's from up north somewhere. I think it's with Wisconsin, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Indiana, Wisconsin, something like
that.
Yeah,
somewhere like that. That's how I have known him since before he moved to Texas, I think. Right?
Yeah, good guy.
Yeah, but he's never come on my show, bastard. Right? You know.
Have you asked him?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did, but some of these guys they're just way busy, you know, and they don't have a Friday evening. Like the latest guy that I'm up in arms against, and I'm just joking here, is Tim Becker from the Inasano Academy. He got Jeff Imada to sit down with him.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And I'm like, Jeff, come on, man. 6 years ago, Dwight reached out. What's up with that? you know?
It's just good conversation.
Yeah, but Tim and Jeff live next door to each other and see each other every week, you know, at the Inasano Academy. So of course, it makes perfect sense, right? Okay, so we have the chronology of Taekwondo and Judo and Jiu Jitsu. When did the filmmaking degree, where did that come in? At what stage?
Probably about 10, man, time flies. It's probably, I guess, 10, 12 years ago. So, you know, I been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and really wanted to make a Jiu-Jitsu movie, and just the culture and everything. You gotta understand, at that time I was involved with the local MMA community. I was
because you were a judge
promoted,
too, right?
Yeah, I promoted a jiu-jitsu tournament. Then I actually started on a crew with what became Legacy FC. Before it was called Legacy FC, it was called Lone Star Beatdown. Not many people remember that. So now it's LFA. So what happened was, I'm sitting, I just rolled. I think I was going to the morning classes or the noon classes because I worked at night. And I'm after rolling, sitting there with a guy named Mick Maynard. He was probably a purple belt at that time. And he tells me, you know, I'm going to start promoting some fights. I'm going to do some MMA fights. And I'm like, okay. Coming from hip hop, you hear people say I'm going to start a record label. I'm going to put your album out. I'm going to go on the road. No one ever does anything they say they're going to do, right? Never.
Right.
Next thing I know, we're in College Station, you know, setting the cage up, you know. So I did that a few times, just crew. And then like, hey, can you judge? So I judged a bunch of fights. And then Mick's matchmaker quit. and I was matchmaking with him for a few fights, and then next thing you know, Mick Maynard is working directly under Dana White. Now
Wow.
he sold Legacy, and now he's an executive at the UFC,
Wow.
part of his matchmaking team.
Wow.
All from that one time, he's looking at me going, yeah, I'm gonna start
Right.
throwing fights. And I'm like,
Right. Yeah.
everybody says they're gonna do everything. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
But I will give Mick a lot of credit. Once I started working with him, you can clearly tell the difference that he was going to be a success. That he'd already had a couple businesses and owned a couple things, but he was a rare breed. So although, I only can say good things.
Was it your involvement in BJJ that led you to Paulson?
Yeah. So I did BJJ. Well, my BJJ actually led me to JKD. So I was doing BJJ before that, and at the school I was at the time, they had a JKD class, and some of my friends that were cross-training JKD and BJJ kept inviting me. Usual story. I'm just going to concentrate on grappling. I'm going to do that. Well, just come to one class, okay? Go to one class. Kind of hooked, right? It's kind of like BJJ. It's I don't know how to explain it, but it really spoke to me in a deep way. And I did grow up as a Bruce Lee fan. I'm wearing the Bruce Lee shirt right now. Did you go to the theater to watch Enter the Dragon? There you go. Did you watch Enter the Dragon, the 50th anniversary? Did you go to the theaters when it came back?
No.
Did you make it?
No, wait. I'm lying. I did. Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Oh, this is so funny. So I'm sitting there with Jennifer, right? And we're looking around at the people, and there's these two Black women sitting behind us. So after the movie, right, one of them sees me in my t-shirt. She goes, yeah. She goes, I've been in love with Bruce Lee for 50 years. Right? and it was hilarious.
Did you say me too? Me too.
Well, no, because me, it would have been 54 years, I think. Because I think I first saw, I think I first saw Bruce Lee in 71. I think must have been 71, because that's when Big Boss came out, right? Yeah, because So Enter the Dragon wasn't my first Bruce Lee adventure. No, we watched everything, and I'm pretty sure I watched Big Boss. I think I watched Big Boss like 5 times.
Yeah.
Right. I have
in theaters.
Yes, in the theater.
Wow.
In the theater. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Right.
People don't remember back when you would go see a movie in theaters over and over again. People just think that was just for Star Wars.
Well,
if the movie was good, you might see it 3 times.
My first Star Wars was which one? Which one's the one with the guys, the stormtroopers in the white helmets? Which one's that? Empire Strikes Back?
All of them had stormtroopers in white helmets.
Oh.
You're probably thinking of A New Hope, episode 4, the first one.
Okay, no. Okay, which is the one? Is there one that had little creatures in it that flew
the Ewoks,
or something?
Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi with the Ewoks.
Are those the ones that look like wet cats or something?
Wet cats.
Yeah. Didn't they? If they got wet, they turned into a different creature. What?
You talking about Gremlins? You're talking about Gremlins? Talking about Gizmo and Stripe?
Okay. All I know, I have watched one Star Wars movie, and it's the one where the guys in the white helmets are on these motorcycles in the air.
Okay, you're probably talking about Return of the Jedi. They were in the forest and they're on like the hover bikes.
Yeah. Which one's that? Of the original sequence?
Return of the Jedi.
Is that number 3? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
So the third one is the first one I ever watched. I had no interest. It wasn't a martial art film, so I had no interest.
I tell my wife that my mom was single growing up. She had a long-term boyfriend once, and she took him to go see Star Wars. Now you gotta understand, this was probably a guy who was 50 in 1983, right? So he probably grew up watching westerns, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
At one point, he's seen all the
John Wayne
creatures.
guy.
Yeah, he's seen all the creatures, and at one point he just turns to her and goes, "There's some hellified creatures in this movie." So every time I'm watching something, my wife, I'll just look at it. If there's some crazy, I'm like, "There's some hellified creatures in this movie. There's some hellified."
Yeah, yeah, man. What was it I was watching today, and I'm just like, oh, this is so terrible. And you got to explain this to me. It's Kate Beckinsale. It's Canary Black.
Oh, I've seen the poster.
Right.
I
Okay.
honestly don't know anything about it.
Now, I think she's cute. I think she's really cute. So I'll watch a Kate Beckinsale movie, but I will not sell my soul. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is terrible. So I stopped.
Not good.
Right? But so my question to you now is this. This thing is filmed in Zagreb in Europe.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so what is the
block countries?
Yeah, what is the deal with that everybody is making their movies over there now? Is that just a money thing?
Yes. It's about incentives and money, and it's too expensive to shoot in LA. I think they're trying to change that now. I don't know if they passed some incentives. But when you say incentives, like a lot of states around the country will give you tax incentives, tax rebates to come and shoot there. So what happened, actually Houston had that in the 90s. So there was a lot of B movies being shot here. So if you watch like some Dolph Lundgren movies from like the early 90s, a lot of that stuff was shot in Houston.
Yeah.
My understanding was where you at? Oh, you're in Miami, right? Oh yeah.
Yeah, we had it too.
Yeah. So what happened recently is state of Louisiana, New Orleans said, we're not going to give you incentives, we'll build studios. And then Georgia did the same thing.
Right.
I believe Toronto and Vancouver. So like go back and even watch Jackie Chan's Rumble in the Bronx. That's not the Bronx, that's Toronto. You know what I mean? So it's just too expensive to shoot in Hollywood. I think one of the reasons they still shoot some stuff in Hollywood is because if you have big stars, like a TV series with big stars, they want to stay local. In other words, they want, at the end of the shooting day, they want to drive home to their house, right? But I mean, look at you take what was the big show from 10 years ago, Breaking Bad. It was supposed to be set like in somewhere in California, I think Northern California, and it was just too expensive to shoot. So they found incentives, I believe, in Albuquerque, in New Mexico.
Now that's
so overseas is cheaper. Plus, I mean, I would love to shoot a movie like in the Philippines where your dollar goes 10 times further. You know, go shoot $100,000 movie. It's like shooting $1 million movie.
So two of my perennial favorite series, The Americans. You're familiar with The Americans?
I am familiar. I haven't watched it, but yeah, it's like a Russian sleeper cell or something.
Yeah. So this is Russian spies in Reagan's 1980s USA. It's that time era, right? Supposed to be based in Washington, D.C. But when I looked it up, when I did my trivia research on it, they actually shot in New York, but not Manhattan, right? They shot like in Brooklyn or the Bronx or something, and made that look like 1980s Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Right? The other one is Justified. You know that series?
I watched a few episodes. I wanted to get into that. I watched like the first 3 episodes. Yeah.
Oh, man. That's
pretty good.
That's the best. So they are supposed to be in the hills of Kentucky, but they filmed somewhere in Northern California. That's what they use for Kentucky. So yeah, you and I didn't talk about this, but I mean, I'm fascinated by filmmaking. I really am.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you've been around it, and once you're around, like I was saying about JKD, you get around it and you kind of get the bug.
Well, yeah. But see, so I was thinking about that because all of your endeavors, there's a there's a connecting thread
Tell
between
me,
all
please.
the
Make it all
things.
make sense for me. Make it all make sense. My wife would be very happy. So would I. Tell
Right?
me.
No, but no, seriously, look, right? My thing with music, one of the first things I heard about, so I was into music probably a year before I got into martial art, right? So I got interested in percussion a year before I got into martial art, right? And now training in traditional martial art as I'm growing up, there's no music involved. But when I get to Inasano and JKD, and I find out
Percussion.
even right that it's like, oh yeah, man, you got to play drums. I'm like, I must be home because as a self-taught percussionist, I integral. So one of the best things about visiting the Inasano Academy, I don't know if you've ever been there,
Have not. I'd love to.
Okay, it's the array of percussion instruments that they have up front in the teaching spot. So it's very common. It's very common for there to be an impromptu jam session before class starts. Right? So the other day on my Facebook page, I put up a video of a drummer named Horacio Hernandez. And he was the first person, I think the correct phrase is independent limb movement. Because he can play like different rhythms or different melodies or whatever it is, because I'm self-taught, so I don't know the correct music terms, right? But what he plays with his left hand isn't necessarily keeping the same time as his right hand, and neither are his feet keeping time with his hands. He can do that. So I put up the video and I go, man, I think this guy would be a whiz at double stick in Kali.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So a guy says, he was teasing and he says, well, I don't know, because he's not mobile. He's sitting down and he doesn't have to torque his body. So maybe it wouldn't translate into Kali. I go, well, I don't know if I agree with you, but I'll let Alex Acuna and Michael Dubin weigh in on this. Alex Acuna. So here's how ridiculous it is. I'm looking up Horacio Hernandez, and I discover an album that he appeared on. But the album that he appeared on is number 2 of that name. So I look up number 1 of the name, and Alex Acuna was the drummer on number 1. Alex Acuna is in the Filipino martial arts class at the Inasano Academy.
Oh, really?
He's been there for years. Right? So don't tell me that there's no connection between playing drums, right, and doing Kali. And Michael Dubin is Michael comes from a musical family, and he oh gosh, oh man, I should know his history better. Sorry, Michael, but he comes from an illustrious musical family and musical background, right? And he's a top-notch Inasano Filipino martial art instructor as well. You know, so yeah. So when I look at you, okay, so it's filmmaking is a passion, and martial art is a passion, and hip hop is a passion, and you made a movie with martial art and original music in it. You're doing the thing, man. You're doing the thing, right? Your passions are not disparate. They're not pulling you in all these different directions. Not at all. Not at all, man.
Well, thank you, because it feels like that at times. It does feel like that at times. But I will say this: that's the great thing about filmmaking, and maybe one of the reasons you enjoy it as well is it's the one art that it's like JKD. It's the one art that encompasses every other art. Fashion, fashion, painting,
right,
music.
Right.
If there's an art form, filmmaking, you know, what I mean,
I see.
Is part of that.
You know, you just made me think of something, right? So okay. every
graphic
time,
design, whatever it is.
yeah, every time that we fly out, wherever it is that we're going to seminar or whatever, I film it. I start filming sometimes inside the terminal, but I start filming and I make sure to get the pushback away from the gate, right? Okay. So I start film and then I make sure to get the landing and pulling into the gate and what have you. Because I'm in my mind, right? I already
coverage.
I got the scene set up, man.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about film. Yes, you got it, man, because you have to see it in your head beforehand. You've got to see every possible shot beforehand. So what what they would call in filmmaking is coverage. You're getting all your coverage.
Yeah.
And then you just got to assemble it.
Yeah.
But really, you got to see it in your head first.
I mean, but you know, one of my favorite things to record from the air is the downtown Miami skyline. Oh my God.
Oh wow. Yeah,
right. So there are two points that actually I might do it tomorrow morning because I think I'm taking the train up to Broward County. There's another I was looking at it from the train the other day again, because when you take off, you're looking down at the buildings, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But you can still get a good idea of what they're like. But from the train at a distance, right? You're like on the same level as the buildings, but they're at a distance. Wow. So yeah. And so you could get a real panoramic shot of it. Man, it is so gorgeous. It is so gorgeous, that Miami skyline. I love it to death. I really do. Right. Okay. So in the stuff that you had sent me, and we talked about this, well, actually you kind of just glossed over it, right? But the way I'm looking at the notes that so in your IMDb profile, right? It says quite simply that you spent early years traveling and living in various cities.
Yeah,
right.
Try to make it sound nice.
Yeah. Right. It's interesting. It's interesting how you wrote it, right? Because traveling and living in various cities before he finally returned to H-Town, right? Yeah. As a result, Derrick developed an appreciation for diversity as reflected in his film work today. If people only knew, in those couple sentences, that is a lifetime of experiences and adventures and influences and I mean, all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah. I've been thinking about that recently, actually, just because, I mean, we landed back in Houston when I was 15. And I'd probably lived more life than many of my peers that I know now by that age. Right. And so it only makes sense that I'd want to talk about it through music, through films, I have a comic book that I'm working on that's in the works, a graphic novel. Just use these experiences to talk about. But so basically I was born in Houston. My parents divorced probably when I was less than 6 months old. I'm Creole. Both my parents are Creole from Louisiana, Louisiana French. So my mom moved back home to Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Let me interrupt you for a second. Do you know Billy Brown?
Billy Brown? No, I do not.
Okay, I gotta put you guys together.
What is that? Is he Creole or what?
He is Creole.
Mm-hmm.
He's Creole.
He a JKD guy or what?
He's a JKD FMA guy from the Vunak lineage. I'm surprised you don't know.
Really, Billy Brown?
Yeah, Billy Brown.
Where's he living?
He lives in the Tampa area now.
Okay, no, yeah.
We
move out. Move out.
Yeah, when we hang up, I'm gonna put you guys together.
Yeah, please do.
For sure,
please do.
For sure,
yeah,
for sure. Right? Okay, yeah. All right. So so to continue.
So so grew up probably till I was like 10, 11 in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and then we moved to California. Lived in California till I was about 14. like I said, a lot of project living. If it wasn't in projects, it would be like Section 8 housing, that kind of thing. And I, I think just the price of living was too high in LA County. We were in the San Gabriel Valley. I did get my first job as a paper boy at like 13 for the San Gabriel Valley Tribune, delivering newspapers at 4 a.m, getting chased by Dobermans. But and it really was thing is, if you come from, like, I come from a very small culture that really probably is almost gone now. When I put my grandmother in the grave, I felt like, man, that might be the end of really what being Creole was. And I was fortunate enough to grow up where I remember when it was like most people spoke French, and
right.
it was just, like, I do little things like, oh, it's the first cold day of the year, I need to make a gumbo. Like, that's just certain little things. But now you go back to Lake Charles, and what used to be a boudin store is now a taco stand or something, and you're like, well, I can get that in Houston.
Right.
Hey, I don't want to go to Louisiana to eat tacos. I mean, you go to Louisiana, South Louisiana, for the Cajun and the Creole culture. So I think maybe I needed to do something artistic about when really my comic book kind of touches on that, the Creole culture and people of Louisiana. But so we moved out. So when I got to California, that's really the first time I'd ever heard anybody speak Spanish. You know what I mean? I remember I think we were going to the zoo or something, and there was a Mexican family that was having a birthday party, and they had a piñata, and they were just beating the heck out of this teddy bear. So, if you've never seen a piñata, can you imagine the first time you've seen like these little 8-year-olds just If you grow up with it, you're like, oh, it's normal. You're like, what is going on, right? So I've never heard anybody speak Spanish. It's very common for me to hear people speak French. But, so went to a very Hispanic area in San Gabriel Valley. And being Creole, means you're mixed with Black and Native. And I actually found out that most Creole people have like 5 to 10% Filipino blood. I guess the Filipinos got around back then.
Well, but, because they were part, and they were part of John Lafitte's army, right, in Louisiana. Okay, all right.
No, you're right. You're right. You're on the something.
You're making. Derrick, you're making me think of so many things. I gotta control my ADHD, right? Because you're making me think of like my favorite Louisiana movies. So everybody.
Go ahead.
Everybody will go JFK, right? But no. You know what's one of my favorite? It's a movie called Storyville.
Storyville. Yeah, I think I have seen that a long time ago.
Yeah, 1992. James Spader. Story.
Yeah, Spader.
Right?
If you haven't seen, there's one called Schultze Sings the Blues. Now that came out about 15, maybe 20 years ago. Check that one out, because it's a slow burn. It's not an action film, but it's about a German guy that who plays accordion, that is going through the radio station one day, and he catches a Zydeco station. Are you familiar with Zydeco music?
Yeah.
So he catches a Zydeco, and I guess if you think about it, if that'd be like the first time, if you played acoustic guitar, that'd be like the first time you ever heard like electric guitar. You know what I mean? If you heard the way the Zydecos play it, or the French people play it, and so he decides to come to the U.S. and to the South Louisiana to experience the culture. So it's a really interesting film, very slow, but probably one of my favorites. Schultze Sings the Blues.
What about let me see if I can remember the name. It starred,
most of them were always about, when I grew up, every movie set in Louisiana was about, or South Louisiana was about voodoo.
No. The ones that I remember about are all about the corrupt NOPD.
Oh, well, there was Kingfish. Did you see?
Now,
Was it called Kingfish, or was it called
nope,
all the King's Men?
nope. It was Dennis Quaid and Ellen Barkin.
Hmm. I missed
Dennis
that one.
Quaid and Ellen Barkin. We got to remember, I'm substantially older than you are. So
You underestimate how bored I was as a kid. Dude, I could talk to you about every episode of Bonanza. You know what I mean? Like, bro, I sit and watch movies, TV
yeah.
movies. That was my thing.
All right.
So I probably have seen it. Probably forgot about it.
Yeah. It is. I'll tell you right now, because I got a computer set up here. It is 92. I saw Ellen Barkin the other day on TV.
Hmm.
You know, one of those celebrities that figures that the Big Easy,
Oh yeah. No, yeah, I definitely remember the Big Easy. Yeah, that was a big
right?
movie back then. The Big Easy
Yeah,
was a big movie back then. Yeah,
yeah,
but you're right.
right.
That came out probably when I was very young, and that seemed like one of those older people movies. So I don't think I need to probably to visit, not revisit, but check it out for the first time probably.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because I remember I love New Orleans. My first visit there, I think we talked about this when I was on your show. My first visit to New Orleans was in '91, I think it was. Right, and man, I love that place. You know,
Yeah.
I think I went back and forth to New Orleans in a 5 month period, probably once a month.
Oh wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
good fun town. I haven't
yeah.
spent much time there yet myself. I mean, New Orleans really kind of has its own culture altogether. Like they're kind of, you've got North Louisiana that's kind of like Lower Arkansas, South
Mm-hmm.
Louisiana that's like Cajun
Mm-hmm.
Creole people. And you have New Orleans that, um, really has, I guess, evolved its own culture. For
Yeah.
instance, like if, in South Louisiana, if someone died, you wouldn't go grab musical instruments and parade down the street. You know, that's a New Orleans thing. You
Right.
know, we just
Right.
have a wake and bring copious amounts of food. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Talk
there's all kind of.
talk about Southern Louisiana and food.
Oh
I
yeah.
I don't know how I came across it, but I ended up ordering it. It it was a YouTube program, and it's this guy who travels around to like the most obscure parts of the planet that he can find. And so he was in southern Louisiana, and he came across a bakery that I think has been in the same spot for over 100 years and in the same
Hmm.
family.
Hmm.
So I looked them up and found out you can order their bread online and they'll ship it to you.
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm. Was it any good?
It was really good. But I
Do
made
they
a
have like
mistake.
French rolls? Or what?
Yeah, I made a mistake, right? I thought when you ordered, if you ordered two, that you got two loaves. No, one order is 5 loaves. So
Oh, really?
yeah.
Freezer. Put it in the freezer.
No,
Give it away.
so my clients and my students, everybody got some French bread from Louisiana, man. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was real
French
good.
bread's good.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
real good. Okay, so let's start to wrap this up with you have to
Yes.
explain this to me. I've heard the term. I know that the Watchmen, I think, is based on one, but what is a graphic novel?
Yeah. So that actually is a very good question because um, most people think like if you go into a comic book store, they have something called the trades, like a trade paperback, and what that is they'll take like the first 3 to 6 issues in a story arc
Mm-hmm.
and compile it into one book. That's a trade paperback. So like say you have a Batman story arc that's 6 issues. That's the whole story arc of this Batman story. They'll take that, they'll put that in a one paperback, and that's a trade paperback. A
Mm-hmm.
graphic novel is an original story with a generally with a definitive beginning and end, but really you could do several part graphic novels, part one, part two, part three. But it's an original you could take a Batman story and make a graphic novel out of it, but it would have to be an original story, generally told in no less than probably 52 pages. Of course, these are all generalities, but it'd be an original story in comic book form.
Right. Okay. So you could use an existing character, but it would be a story that's an original story. So it's a story so it would have nothing to do with anything that had ever been published about Batman.
Well, not that it just wouldn't. It wasn't released in, as individual 22-page comic books. Monthly issues.
Okay.
They'll take. Well, yeah. What I meant to say is they'll take, these. You've read a comic book, 22 pages. Next month, another 22 pages comes out. That's a floppy, comic. They'll take those 6 issues and sandwich them together. That's a trade paperback. Generally speaking, most graphic novels are original ideas, original IPs, especially in this day and age. That's probably going to be your best shot at success, rather than getting into the comic book industry is extremely difficult. But even if you get in, making money in it is extremely difficult. More people are finding success at starting a YouTube channel, building a fan base, creating their own IP, doing things like that. Yeah.
What the heck is his name? Because Eric. His
Eric
name
July.
is
Eric July.
Is it Eric July? Yes.
Yeah, Eric July.
Yeah. Okay. So you do know about
Eric
him.
July. If you're listening to this, I submitted my comic to your Ripasend. I haven't heard nothing back from you. I'll make all this money, Eric. I'll make all this money, Eric. It's fine. But yeah, he's so successful now. He started his own publishing.
Right.
So yeah, but he's a perfect example. He's a guy that started YouTubing and being an opinionated person, which people gravitate to. Whether you like it, it's like I tell people, why did the UFC stay around in the aughts? Because of Tito. People watched Tito because they loved him or they hated him. You know what I mean? So Tito Ortiz was a draw. Either you wanted to see him get knocked out or you were on his team. So Eric July is kind of like that. He's an opinionated guy that is really successful. I think he sold 3 million on his first, comic he put out. So that's the dream. That's the dream.
Right. But this is why it pisses me off when I hear people talking about, oh, it's so hard for the black man in America to get ahead, and I'm thinking, I must be living in a different America.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Everything's out there for you.
Yeah, because the first time I saw him, it was on Blaze TV, and I'm like, Eric July, a black comic guy, right?
And most of his characters are black. Most of his, not all, but most of his characters are black.
I mean,
and
come on,
people are buying it. People are buying it off the, not off the shelf, but he's,
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Let me ask you this: when you start working on a graphic novel, are you also thinking about the movie version at the same time?
For me, yes, just because I can't. I think I've spent so much time with my brain clicked on movie. It's hard to unclick that.
Right.
But it's still like we were talking earlier. I still have to see. I see all the scenes, all the shots.
Right.
Yeah, but it would actually translate very good to either a film or like a or a series, like a streaming series, set in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Creole black lead. So it's kind of like John Wick with kung fu and all. Well, John Wick has kung fu, but yeah.
If you what was I watching before? Because to get into the right frame of mind to have a conversation with a filmmaker, I turned on the TV and I'm watching stuff. So I was watching the Lincoln Lawyer. It's the season 3, right, on Netflix. Okay,
Is it good? I was thinking about checking it out.
yeah, I like. Okay, so this is what I'm doing, right? I'm watching and I'm going, oh, this is good, because they're showing, you know how everybody now has, they have their main characters, but there's a subplot for each of the characters. It's not like, and it's like an independent subplot. So what's going on with person 1 doesn't necessarily have anything to do with person 2, even though there's interaction between person 1 and person 2. So they're doing that, right? And the way the camera is it fading or passing, from one person panning into the other one, right? And so I'm watching and I'm going, yeah, that's a good technique, right? Because this is how I watch. I don't know anything about making a movie, but this is how I watch. And so the guy goes to the hotel and he gets the security footage from the manager. And now he's watching it, right? And he's watching the girl. And then there's the scene where the girl goes and gets her car. But here's what I noticed. The scene when the girl walks into the hotel, there's 2 girls standing like they're waiting for their car. In the scene where she goes in, spends 5 minutes in the hotel, comes back out, gets her car, and drives out, the 2 girls are still standing there. So they had a continuity error because unless it took 10 minutes to get their car, those 2 extras should not be in that scene.
Yeah. Well, generally you have someone on set, their whole job is continuity. Yeah.
This is how I watch stuff, Derrick. Am I mad?
No, I'm the same way. I mean,
yeah, but you make films.
Yeah. But, yeah.
Right.
And now my wife does that. Like, oh, did you see that? The cup was, and there's some scenes in Lion Killer that that were very hard to cut, because it's like I preferred a performance from another shot, but I forgot the dang cup was in the scene, and no one in this,
Yeah.
So I had to use a take that I wasn't happy with or whatever.
It's like the pancakes, the Julia Roberts pancakes in Pretty Woman. At the breakfast scene with Richard Gere, it changes shape. So right. So back then I was watching stuff like that. I was watching for the errors. And
so let me ask you, why haven't you made a movie, even a short film or something? Think about, listen to me. All the connections you have in the JKD community, you could put together a story with some of the most talented martial artists in the world. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like a 5-10 minute short film.
Yeah, but
with a story, of course. And I'm sure you've lived life. You've got, come on, you've got some stories to tell, to pull from at least.
No,
don't do it. It's a lot of work. Don't do it.
No, Derrick, I grew up. I'm gonna sound like Kamala Harris. I grew up middle class.
But in Barbados, though, that in of itself, well, in the industry we call it mise en scène. You know, I mean, you could set it in Barbados, and
I mean, look. This I used to say this.
And just because you grew up middle class doesn't mean you didn't go through.
No. I used to make a joke of this, right? I used to make a joke of this, that it makes no sense for a kid who was born in Trinidad and grew up in Barbados to now on a Friday night be doing a podcast interview with you. It makes no sense. Right? Because and how did this come about, Dwight? Oh, because of Bruce Lee. What? There's a story in that? To me, it's not logical at all. So where would the story be? I don't know.
I'll convince G. Anthony Joseph to you and him will work together.
Well, no. He and I should do.
He could play you.
No. He and I should do the Brown Hornet.
Well, you got to pay Cosby. You got to pay Cosby. People don't even know what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
The Brown Hornet.
But yeah, man, I don't know. Anyhow, all right. Well, listen, my friend, I gotta wrap this up because I gotta be up in Broward County tomorrow. So, but it was a pleasure, Derrick. Tell people where they can find you. We didn't even talk about FuryCast. So, guys,
Yeah,
Derrick, you're on episode number what now?
42, 43.
All right.
Somewhere around there. Yeah. Of FuryCast. I interview mostly martial artists, the occasional comic book creator or filmmaker. Probably the last 20 episodes all been martial artists. And it's on YouTube. Just Google FuryCast, all one word, FuryCast. Please like, subscribe, smash the bell, comment, share, everything.
And he has
some subscribers.
He has the best looking thumbnails for his interviews, much better than mine.
Graphic design. Hey, you want to be a filmmaker today? You better learn graphic design. You know?
So you got to go. So is a lot. So you're self-taught on a lot of that stuff, right? Like even the graphic design stuff.
Well, not the filmmaking. I went to school, got a degree in filmmaking, but yeah, as a byproduct of necessity, you know, you need a poster. You know what I mean? You need you need all kind of content. You need constantly be putting out content for your stuff. You know, Photoshop, better get real good at it, and you know, sound design. Yeah, I purposely, when I went to film school, was to learn as much as I could, because the less, in my opinion, and of course this is debatable because so many filmmakers disagree with me, but the less people you depend on is the better. You know, if you can do it, you need to do it until you can pay people. Until you can pay people. If you could pay people, not the hookup wage where they're still going to let you down, but with deadlines you can reinforce, that's great. But on the indie level, that's not many people.
Does that turn you into a control freak though?
You know, I hope not. My wife might say different. I don't think I'm naturally that way. I think I've, in the past, have depended on people who kind of come up with, oh yeah, man, I was supposed to do that, but you know, something came up, you missed deadlines. Yeah. And I think I learned early on that, hey, do as much as you can until you're in a position to really pay people, professional people.
I hear you. I got one more question for you. Nacogdoches, is that known by another name or something?
No, Nacogdoches, Texas. No, just but we Lion Killer cleaned up. Best film, Nacogdoches Film Festival.
Okay, so
college town.
Okay, so it's not a film itself.
No, it's a town, Nacogdoches, Texas.
Oh, because so I didn't understand that when you sent me the note about the best feature film, right? It said film Nacogdoches, so I thought that was the name of something.
Oh, maybe I transposed.
Yeah,
what I was supposed to say, but yeah, the Nacogdoches Film. That's what that trophy there that looks like a camera. Yeah, that's their grand prize. And so actually, it was a lovely film. Yeah, Lion Killer cleaned up over there.
Nice, and
nice. I'd really recommend people make it to that film festival as well as the Austin Revolution Film Festival, which is a lot of fun. So.
All right. Okay, so everybody remember, check out FuryCast on YouTube and check out Lion Killer, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, Tubi, Freevee, and the Spanish dub on Canela. How'd I do?
Man, you're hired.
Derrick, thanks so much for hanging out.
Thank you, man, for having me.
All right.
Yes, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. We'll talk again.
Talk to you soon.
All right,
Bye.
take it easy. Bye.